Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Muggle Minute, where we talk about Harry Potter Wizards Unite before the game comes out. So, this week with me, we have Pokevotter again and GoShinyHunter. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Doing great, man. How are you?
It's Vancouver, so it's still raining, and can't really go out to play Jurassic World Live a lot, so that kind of sucks. And also I have finals tomorrow, so that's something else as well. But I'm pretty good on that one. Anyways, this week let's talk about some in-game features. So last week we talked about a lot of mechanics like 5G or other stuff, but let's talk about gameplay this week. So first, let's talk about teams. In Pokemon Go, obviously we have our three major teams. We got Team Mystic, Team Valor, and Team Instinct. And they don't, I guess they're quite important, but at the moment, not so much in a PvP sense. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are very attached to their teams. I've seen a lot of that online. But for Wizards Unite, what do you guys think? Teams or no teams?
I think it's a little coincidence that they've put up three different ones in the logo. They've added that new in, that it's Ron, Hermione, and Harry. And I think they're pretty distinct teams that you could base the game on. Otherwise, I'm not sure why they'd put them in there. And I think it worked all right in Pokemon Go. I think the teams don't play too much of a part. It's not like if you what you don't want is too much of like, I'm Team Instinct, you're Team Valor, we can't play with you in this area. So I don't know if they'll kind of how they're going to make it, whether they're going to make them they really play a part in the game in their distinct teams, or whether they're just like that backdrop who just help guide you through it, the giving you a rating on the IVs.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that they could really go with this. The three wands could be kind of like Blanche and just kind of the mentors, if you will, if we're going to draw comparisons to Pokemon Go. With Ron, Hermione, and Harry, could kind of be the ones that are guiding your way, and maybe they all work for the ministry, and so you choose a different branch that you're associated with. You could go like that. The obvious thing would be houses. I mean, you could pick 4 teams. I don't really know that that's a popular opinion at this point, though. I think most people feel like they're kind of going to go away from houses. And then the other thing is you could bring Ingress into this and say you have Team A and Team B, where one is trying to prevent everything, but the other is trying to undo, if you will, kind of say, it's not a bad thing for Muggles to know what's going on. So I really think that when we start talking about teams, if there's even going to be teams, and something else that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere is maybe just alliances or guilds. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they could go with this, and I think all of them in their own right could be very successful, depending on what the gameplay. And I think once we kind of know more about exactly what gameplay is going to be like, I think it'll be pretty obvious how teams are going to be broken up.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. We could have like alliances or guilds, but that would be, I think, quite it's radically different than the conception of teams like they have in Pokemon Go, which is more a global thing. Well, alliances and guilds, it's more of a tighter, more private concept, I guess. You got a group of people, like the limit is obviously lower, and people, I think, communicate more in guilds and alliances instead of, in a huge team like in Pokemon Go. Like, you're not going to talk to every single Team Instinct person in the world. That's not going to happen unless you're
absolutely.
Spark. But
you're going to lose that sense of community within your team. And it would be interesting to see. I think you'd have, if it was like Grindelwald versus Dumbledore side of things in terms of wanting to expose magic to the Muggles versus wanting to protect that, I think you would probably, I take a guess that you'd see a higher percentage of people going on the good side. Um, you just see what that split would be. I think you might see that imbalance and how that could play out. It just kind of ruin the competition. Whereas if you do have, like you say, alliances, I think clans worked really well in a lot of the AR games that have come out so far because they do give you that you can communicate with people. That's good to interact. Walking Dead: Our World Alive, Walking Dead: Our World, yeah, Our World. That brought into a feature of clan goals, so you could complete missions together to get rewards, and that was a really fun feature to have. So I'd like to see it steered more towards that side of things rather than just the blanket. We've got three teams; they don't really count for much, and that's it. We've not got any making friends. Like
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at, like, I keep saying this, but if you look at everything that Niantic ever puts out as far as like relations and media, all they ever talk about is getting people together and getting people basically outside of your house and getting you to interact. And so I think, if you do the clans, then you kind of create that. You're probably going to be more local and people that so you're going to get out and work with them more so. And I think that could add to the more community thing. And if we're going to continue going and saying that at some point there may be a Quidditch style game, or that Niantic has a game called Neon where it's laser tag, you would have to form up a local team somehow by
Definitely.
doing that.
I think without that chat, you're going to lose that. I know, like, through some of the games you've seen, in some games you can put stuff up. Ghostbusters World, you can see that other people are in your area, but you can't communicate with them, and it means that you could have, if you've got like a raid in a very rural area, there's no point in me going to it and hoping that some people can turn up. But I bet there's people who are all in that same mindset, thinking, I'm not going to go to that because I don't know who else is going to be there. And I think if you just have that feature of communication within your local area, you're gonna be allowed to like organize events and raids, and Quidditch tournaments would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Like the two AR games I've played, really, other than Pokemon Go, Jurassic World Live, and The Walking Dead: Our World, both of them do have smaller alliance features. For those of you who don't know, Jurassic World Live, you could trade dinosaur DNA between you and your alliance. They call it alliance mates. Is that a thing? Alliance members. How about that?
Yeah, alliance members.
And then The Walking Dead: Our World, you, as Dan has alluded to before, you guys have mission goals, and then you get a lot of really good prizes. The prizes are pretty overpowered.
Yeah, they're probably the best way of getting some of the best gear.
Mm-hmm. And you can also, there's flares. There's this flare thing in Walking Dead as well, where you could like kind of teleport to your what do they call guild members location? I have to keep on mixing these names.
Yeah, when you play so many different things, they refer to it. It took me ages when I was playing Draconia's Go to stop referring to them as a Pokédex or these are creatures in this game. And then when you start getting into like Pokemon is a Pokestop, and what is it in Jurassic World Live? Something different.
A supply drop.
Supply drop, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So a lot of these features in these games are quite... I'd say they're quite useful. They're more beneficial for the player than what we really have in Pokemon Go, I think. Pokemon Go is more... I think the teams... The bigger part of these teams are a sense of identity. I think the team identity is really important for Pokemon Go. But then for, like, The Walking Dead and Jurassic World, they have more practical goals that they want to get out of these alliances and guilds and such.
Yeah, and speaking of Pokemon Go, really, when the game launched, the whole point of the teams was who controlled the different towers, the gyms. And now with raid bosses and everything, you get a little bit of extra incentive if you're battling a raid boss at a gym that's controlled by your team. So, and you get a few more balls and a few more rewards by defeating the boss if you are on the team that controls the gym. So there is a little incentive there, but I'm not sure that it, other than just, I'm Mystic, or I'm Valor, or I'm the odd guy out, and I'm what's yellow? I forget. Instinct.
Come on, we're not the odd.
There's really there's no reason to really care for the casual player. I don't know that the casual player really cares what team they're on, and going with, like Dan was saying, if you have the one side and the other, if it's just two teams, you could have a huge imbalance, and I don't know that would make for a great game. And I keep going back to it, but I really do think they're going to try to include Quidditch at somehow, some way in this. And in order to do that, it kind of only makes sense that you would have to know the people in order to coordinate when you're going to have Quidditch matches. So maybe use the 3 wands as your 3 leaders, but then within those, maybe there are guilds. Problem that you run into is you may exclude some of your friends unless those guilds can be all inclusive, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you kind of got like two sides of teams. You got the team in like the gameplay, but then when it comes to competitions, you can merge.
Right.
So I think it would be good to have. I do like the individual. When Pokemon Go came out, what was nice, like I had a Valor T-shirt, and you could go out and somebody go, I'm Valor as well. And
right.
I don't know, there's something nice about that. You could immediately identify people on your team, and I think if they do go down that Ron, Hermione, Harry, they are distinct enough that you could identify people from your team if they have things associated with it. One of the things Draconius Go did, another AR game, is they did that the 1v1 kind of 2 teams. And what they found they just had red and blue team, and they had to ban people choosing the red team, and then people who came in later to the game could only choose blue teams to try and balance it out.
Right.
So I think there are ways you can work around any imbalances.
And that might ruin some of the gameplay experience. I don't know that people would care, well, I'm red or blue, but if you really wanted to side with the wizards instead of the ones that want to let it go, that could really mess up gameplay. And I really feel like Niantic is all about keeping it casual. They want, and the way for the game to really succeed is for the casual player to get hooked into and kind of feel like they're a part of it, and not, well, I'm only on this because I had no other choice, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe they would balance it, but just looking at Pokemon Go, I don't really think they care too much about the balance, to be honest.
Right.
Like, just the ratio of like Mystic versus Instinct, it's kind of ridiculous. They didn't do anything about it. They're probably never going to do anything about it. I don't think so. If they do throw out teams, I'm not sure if they're going to balance them. Like, if they're just going to randomly give you one, you could always just re-roll for another team that you want. It's quite hard to balance them. So if they are,
to see which would be more popular out of the 3, Harry, Ron, or Hermione.
I'm pretty sure Hermione's still the most popular one, right?
Probably say she's got a whole female following probably, and then some males still probably favor her because she's like probably the strongest.
Yeah. It would be I think Ron would probably be the odd one out. I think heavy Hermione and heavy Harry, and then Ron would kind of be the people who just wanted to go against the flow. And if they do that, I could see them just being mentors. And so, and going back to what Dan was saying about wearing the shirt, where if he's going out and wearing the gear for the team that he's on, other people can identify. you would have to take into consideration, well, what kind of merch could I wear? I'm not wearing Hermione's mugshot on my T-shirt.
What's wrong with that?
Hermione would never get a mugshot. Come on, let's be real.
So, if as far as identification, it would make more sense to go with the houses because people know the colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of people have kind of given up on if it's going to be that it's going to be the houses, but there's a lot of reasons for it to be the houses, and that would be just bringing in the casual fan who can associate with, well, I like the color blue, so I'm Ravenclaw, or I like Slytherin because I like green. So there's pros and cons to everything, and without seeing some of the gameplay, it's hard to tell. But that's why this is so much fun to speculate on the different ways that they could go.
Mm-hmm.
I like houses better than Harry, Ron, Hermione.
Yeah, I do too, personally.
Yeah,
I think houses.
Had it. All the people who are probably really into it have probably done the Pottermore quiz to find out what the house is. It'd be nice to see a link to that maybe as well, because one of the things Hogwarts Mystery really failed at is they let you choose your house without anything. And all they could have done is just put a simple link to Pottermore, and you would have felt like it was, you really enrolled and your choices mattered. So if they did that, I think that would work really well.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really cool. If everybody got the experience when you first logged on, if you got the experience of the hat telling you which house you're in, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but then we're going to have a bunch of Hufflepuff players, and then people won't like that, and they're going to reroll and look for guides online on how to get into Slytherin or Gryffindor.
True. Unless your answers didn't really matter and it was all randomized. But then, of course, people could always re-roll. But like I said, I don't think the casual fan will care. The hardcore fans are going to care. They're like Posey is going to want Slytherin.
Yeah.
So he's going to re-roll until he gets the one that he wants. But I think the casual fan will be like, wait, what's Hufflepuff? I don't even remember this one. But, okay, cool. It must be one of the houses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually think the Harry, Ron, Hermione, the gap between the balance of the three teams probably would be smaller than the houses. I think Potter's kind of throwing Ron under a bus. There's quite a few people. Are you
saying you want a mugshot of Ron on your shirt?
But I think there's still quite a few people who like their king out there. So there's that. But then the houses, it's way too heavily leaned towards Gryffindor and Slytherin, opposed to the other.
But again, if like in Pokemon Go, where if ultimately that doesn't matter, then the imbalance won't matter either.
Maybe, yeah. Although, I mean, the imbalance, I think it still matters even in Pokemon Go. We're Instinct in our local area, and there's like about 2.5 people who are also Instinct. it's just a pain to play around here. So there's that.
Yeah. True.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, any last words on
released? Hogwarts Mystery did release there in who people did choose. First place was Gryffindor, second Slytherin, third Ravenclaw, fourth Hufflepuff. They didn't say the exact amount. So
no surprise there.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. Mm-hmm. So if you go houses, I don't see why that would change with Wizards Unite.
Yeah. Really wouldn't expect Hufflepuff coming out first. Would we ever? Poor guys. So, let's move on to our second topic. It's about rural versus urban players. So this has been there has been a bit of discussion about this, especially in Pokemon Go, about rural versus urban players.
Thing in
Pokemon
Go, isn't it?
And that's one of the reasons why there are spoofers. There's a lot of other reasons why you would spoof, but that could be a lot of spoofers when they get caught. That's their excuse. Oh, I live in some village in I don't know, Luxembourg, and we don't have anything ever around us. Yeah, no Pokestops, no
20
Pokemon.
miles away.
Yeah. So, is there a fix to this? Is there a possible fix that, or they could improve that in
Definitely.
Wizards Unite?
I think you've seen that in all the other AR games that have come out since then. They've really tackled that difference in rural versus urban. So obviously, Pokemon Go goes Niantic go for fixed locations that are popular, either tourist destinations or certain things of kind of interest, and that is, you're going to get an imbalance with that. There have been games that have brought in that just pure random designation, so it doesn't matter where on the map, I'm going to put an equivalent Pokestop here, and I've always found that works so much better. It makes the gameplay so much better from when because I do every now and then return to Pokemon Go, just log in to see what's happening, and every time I log in, I'm just like, I'm taking a trip home, and I'll pass one Pokestop, and then you'll open up, say, Jurassic World Live, and there's several supply drops on your way home. So I just think they really need to listen to take some of that element, at least create a balance within that, because it's just too imbalanced at the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy you say it, because I actually opened up Pokemon Go last night doing some preparation for this podcast. And the thing that I found is, from my house, I can see 4 Pokestops. And I'm in Orange County, California, so it's like a sister city to Los Angeles. There's several million people in Orange County. And there were 4 Pokestops, well, 3 Pokestops in a gym that I could see from my house. And then I played Jurassic World Alive significantly more. And there's no less than 15 supply drops, which would kind of be the equivalent of a Pokestop. And it's just amazing, the difference. Now, the one thing that I will say is that there are a lot more spawns of Pokemon than there are dinosaurs that I can reach from my house. And so you have this huge contrast between, in order to get supplies, I have to leave the house on Pokemon Go because I can't reach any Pokestops and Pokemon are spawning. Yet in Jurassic World Alive, I have a ton of supply drops, none of which I can actually reach from my house, but a much shorter walk. But only 1 dinosaur spawns, maybe 2 spawn that I can reach from my house. So you have like all the gold for one element of a game in one game, and then all the gold in the other element. And so if there was some way to merge, like I know I played the Ghostbusters very briefly.
Yeah.
And that was like things were spawning everywhere, and I never had to leave my house. And I don't think
their system is it doesn't matter where you are, you will always have 3 around you in that, which wasn't a very good system because it just does mean you can stay at home and play constantly.
Right. And then as
Doesn't
far
feel like
as
an AR game then.
I think the thing that they're going to have to overcome, and I think urban players are always going to have an advantage on geolocation based games for the reason of saying how many supply drops that I have around my house. I think it's quite a bit, but it's absolutely nothing in comparison to when I was in New York City, where I was in Manhattan, and from my hotel I could spin 3 supply drops. There were no less than a dozen dinosaurs spawned on my map. I could always dart 5. Like, it was just such night and day, and I consider myself to be pretty lucky where I am in Orange County. But it was also like that when I was in downtown LA, where Posty and I did this little competition of who could get the better spawns, essentially is what it amounted to. And I was in downtown LA, which is a major city, and they were everywhere, and they were good spawns. And so I think, I know Niantic is using their own maps system. I know it's still built off of OpenStreetMaps, if I'm not mistaken, but all the other games seem to have gone to the Google version of that. And I don't think Niantic is going to Google. So I think if they can't fix that issue of the rural having a significant disadvantage, they're going to lose a lot of players instantly because they've already gone through that with Pokemon Go.
I actually think you're giving Pokemon Go a bit too much credit there because, yes, Pokemon Go does have a lot more spawns than Jurassic World Live usually, but the quality of Pokemon Go spawns in comparison to Jurassic World Live really is quite different. Like in Jurassic World Live, what we have a almost 10% spawn rate of a rare dino, and usually all the rare dinos that pop up are good, are useful, or at least they could be useful in the future. But in Pokemon Go, if you really want a good quality Pokemon spawn, that's quite difficult. Like, sure, there are a lot of Pokemon spawning, but first you need to get the Pokemon you need out of the almost 500 Pokemon available out there, and then you need to get one that's of a certain range of IV, which is quite difficult. And then, for some people, they want, or at least a lot of people, they want the shiny Pokemon, which also has a really low chance of spawning. So it's there is a lot of Pokemon spawning. Last time I went community day, Chikorita, they were spawning like crazy, but it was really hard to get a quality spawn out of those.
I think back when I was playing, I mean, if you looked at the scanners, like there was always just one spot where a Dragonite would spawn, and it would not spawn anywhere else. And so, if I didn't go into the city, I would never get a Dragonite spawn. And then you could see there were set locations where certain types only spawn. So if you were just in a crappy location, you would get plenty of spawns, but the quality wouldn't be good.
Right, and that is the other element of that is the quality. I don't know if people would be too mad if nothing spawned, but when it did, it was great. I don't know if people would be that upset. I think they might get a little bored. But then this is also, we're predicating all this on saying that Wizards Unite is going to have something that spawns, and I think we all agree that that's going to be a key element to the game. But
a lot of facts. I think given the trailer, it looks most likely that something like that's going to happen, and I think it would be the most kind of popular, synchronous with the film's Fantastic Beasts, that you're going to put in some fantastic beasts, and they've got plenty. You've got over 150 mystical beasts that you can choose from and design, and and then you've got all the artifacts. So I think they'll have plenty to work with there. Yeah, but will they even do that? Don't know.
Yeah, and then how do you power them up, level them up, things of that nature? I think it just comes down to, what are you trying to accumulate? What are you trying to strengthen? And then, I still feel like the major cities in these games is always going to have an advantage, but I think you can close that gap significantly if you know a place is rural. Obviously, Niantic has the ability to increase spawns manually on their side. If population density, things of that nature, I think you can account for. And also, they've opened up portal submissions for Ingress and Pokemon Go. And so if they're going to continue to use those, I personally see no reason why they wouldn't. They already have all that code.
Yeah, I think they have mentioned that it will follow similar sites to Pokemon Go. So I think, can't remember, but I read it in an article. I think that somebody involved in it did say that they were going to have similar locations to Pokemon Go, but it would make sense why they're trying now to make up for that rural urban gap by people submitting things. The only problem is I don't have any nice artifacts to present. I'm tempted to I'm tempted to, if it comes out, I'm going to build I don't know, just random art piece or get a giant rock, put a plaque on it and say, take a picture, this is this location. That's the dream, isn't it? Getting a Pokestop on your house.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, so
I think other games have definitely, I think they can learn a lot from other games, that little things have made it more accessible for rural players. Like Ghostbusters World, they've added this feature where you can submit, you can lay one Pokestop equivalent in any location you want, So that's quite nice because you do end up with one on your house. Or our world, Walking Dead, our world has the element of flares, so it does mean that you can reach those inner city places from your clan mates. And one of my favorite was in Draconius Go. Their AR game had you could build, so it had magic spells, so you got runes throughout the day through collecting them from Pokestops and from random encounters with wild creatures, and you could cast spells with help from other people as well, so you could use their runes, and you could either cast like a certain type of pillar, so that's what they're called, pillars in that game. And so you could cast say like a water one, which will only attract water ones for so long. It lasts 30 minutes, and you couldn't cast loads because you're obviously limited by your runes. But what I'd do then is I'd go out into the city, collect loads of runes, have a good day playing with that, and then when I come back home, I could still play, still set up some pillars. So I think they've got a lot of things that they could, work a way around it. I think it's just really key that they get that balance between rural and urban, because it does make players turn away, and you can see why people spoof. I don't think it is a good reason, a good excuse to, because you can travel to cities sometimes, but I think it's going to be it'll be interesting how they address that balance. I think it's definitely an issue that a lot of people will want fixed.
Well, in Clash and Go, I know that Dan played that for a hot second. I played it for a hot second as well. They actually had a currency where you could spend a currency to put a stop anywhere you wanted. Most people put it either on their house or their work. But then people could, if you bought into that system, then you could vote on being allowed to move things around. That kind of opens another door for currency use that I don't know Niantic wants to get into. But, there's always that option where you could buy a stop and then people in your town could vote on it or whatever, as far as adding. And then if you have a good player base in your town, they're not going to feel ostracized if they're able to put in a few stops. You guys could, when the game comes out, everybody's going to drop them right away. But then there will be numerous around. Obviously, you run into safety issues because if there's a stop at a house, you're going to assume that person plays the game. But I think there are definitely ways around it that you can learn, and hopefully they've taken note of some of those things.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of these AR games do it quite well, and Pokemon Go is kind of. It seems like a lot of these AR games in general are learning from a lot of Pokemon Go's. I wouldn't say mistakes, just missteps, I guess, and they're all improving upon that. And I'd be surprised if Wizards Unite doesn't do the same. So hopefully it's gonna be better than what they have in Pokemon Go. And while we're on this topic, let's quickly just talk about regional spawns. Pokemon Go has regional spawns, and I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't want to go to England to get a Basilisk. I might want to go there to visit Dan, but I just don't want to spend $1,000 flying over there to get a Basilisk.
People did that, didn't they?
Yeah, people did that.
They travel to, and imagine you travel the world, spend like thousands of pounds to get to all these different locations, and then you hear like the next week, this week we're bringing in trading, so you can just trade for it now. You'd be a little bit like, oh, I wasted money on that travel. Yeah. I think they definitely could bring in regionals, because some of the Fantastic Beasts are technically region specific, like Nundu, I think, is African, and so you could see some of those things happening. So I think the Thunderbird is from Arizona, if I remember from the film. Yep. So you've got things that could be region specific, but yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that for the first, was it year even, that Farfetch'd, Kangaskhan all eluded my perfect Pokedex apart from those.
Yeah, so the collector and everybody is going to be upset. But I think that adds such a unique element to the game that I'm going to be the odd one out here. I'm going to say I kind of hope there is some incentive to going out somewhere new and picking up a regional exclusive. And it's not going to be for everybody. Like, not everybody is going to be able to travel. And at some point in time, if the game is successful, I imagine everything will become available. But I think kind of the memory that you create, and I think that's what has kept so many people attached to Pokemon Go, is the memories that they've created playing the game.
Definitely agree with that. That's what AR games really should be about. My best experiences have been when I've been out and gone to new places or even my local area. There's a technique on Draconia's Go which I'd hope they employ, which they had like these treasure hunts where each week you'd get a piece of a map that you get from different pillars, and it builds one location that's within your area. And I've visited locations in my area that I didn't even know existed. I've been chased down by cows trying to get my treasure, and thinking, oh my God, is it worth it? No, I'm still going to do it. And you're right, though, the exclusivity could bring that element of, it does create those really big memories for you when playing a game, I think.
Well, just think about the content that you're going to be able to create if you're being chased down by cows out in the field.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, that's when I wasn't recording, and that's when I was thinking, like, this would be fun to record, but like, I don't know if I'd actually get attacked by they'd all stampeded right at me, and I was just had to jump over the fence.
Yeah, I'd rather get out alive.
Yeah. Oh, it was worth it. I think
See,
I got one of the things that I wanted, so it was just even better. So yeah, I do think region exclusives do add that element to. They force you to get out to get things, and I do think where some AR games have failed recently, like Clash and Go, I was really excited for that, but it just didn't have a strong enough AR outside element. And
right,
you know, Pokemon Go, their egg system was probably the best thing that they had in the game, because it meant you had to get out and walk. You had to, and there's the biggest incentive for me to just go on walks and big long walks and get my 10k eggs hatched. So I think a feature like that, or anything that includes you getting out to go into new areas, is definitely a positive. It is frustration. I mean, please do not do the thing where you let other people who've been to America get their Taurus, come back to UK, put it in a gym. You look in the gym, and by accident, you don't mean to, you realise that you've viewed a Taurus, and now you've got in your Pokedex that bloody silhouette. don't put that in.
No. Yeah, I definitely think I think the exclusives, I think, are a reason to go out and get something different. If I know, Jurassic World Alive has habitat zones or locals, and there's 4 of them plus parks, and you're really not going to see any park spawns in a neighborhood. So it forces you, if you need a certain DNA to create a hybrid, you have to go to a park basically to get any kind of sizable amount of that DNA. And I think, if you're not going to do exclusives to regions, exclusives to areas, I think is a must to get people out.
Mm-hmm. I could live with exclusive to areas, but I don't know. I still don't want to fly all the way down to Australia to get whatever. So,
but it'd be a great vacation.
It would if I wasn't also in school and stuff. But we had a local in our local Pokemon Go group spent $15,000 just flying around the world getting Pokemon. Like that.
Wow.
That sounds really fun. He's been to like a lot of cool places.
Yeah.
But I need the $15,000 first.
Right, and that creates. Pokemon Go is not necessarily a pay-to-win type of game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Jurassic World Alive gets accused of being pay-to-win because you can speed up progression. And yes, you can speed up your progression in Pokemon Go. But I think the bigger pay-to-win is those who can't afford to travel and get these Pokemon that you wouldn't be able to get here in the United States. Like I could get Taurus, but I had no chance of getting Farfetch'd unless I went to Japan. But that also, at the same time, if I'm passionate, and let's make no mistake, Harry Potter has a huge passionate following. If I'm passionate about this, then it might be worth me saving up for a year to take a vacation to Japan, somewhere I probably would never visit. But I'm going there, A, for a vacation, but under the disguise of I'm going there to pick up this exclusive for a game or a franchise that I'm passionate about. And so when you think of it that way, it's not, when I spent $15,000 on Pokemon Go, it's Pokemon Go made me go explore somewhere really cool that I probably never would have been. And I think that's where the regional exclusives become pay to win because it costs several thousand to get there. But it's more about the experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It would definitely bring a great experience to the game.
It would. Oh,
but even in local areas, it means, you know, like I was paying when I was
mm-hmm.
I was off work for a year whilst I was recovering from a virus, and I spent probably £5 every day on just getting on my bus, being on the bus and going into the city. I'd go in like 5 times a week, and so like you still do have to pay to play in that element. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if they do bring regions. The problem is the regions, there's so many different beasts from different regions if they go along that line, that it's gonna be interesting which ones they pick to do that with.
For sure.
Well, one more slight downside, I guess, to regionals is that it does encourage more spoofers, I guess. But, you know, spoofers, generally, they're going to spoof either way. But, you know, if they really can't get to somewhere, they're just going to teleport over there, which kind of sucks as well. But
yeah, I mean, thing is cracking down on that, though, aren't they? So hard. Pokemon Go definitely cracked down on that recently. And I think once you start getting bans, especially for people who've like spoofed for like 2 years and then their account they've lost it, they're going to remember that pain of, wow, that was just a waste of time. So hopefully that will deter people. And I think if you put mechanics in that mean that you don't need to, you know, spoof with that balance of rural and urban, I think it will detract from people doing it, hopefully.
Yeah, I think, like I said in the last one, I think somebody's always going to look for a competitive advantage. But if you can keep the casuals out from even getting started, because right away, you know, Jurassic World Live did a ban probably 3 months into the game. Yeah. And they gave everybody notice, like, if you're spoofing, we know, and we're going to ban you. And then, you know, it was several weeks later, here comes a big ban wave. I think you'll keep the casuals from wanting to do it. And so I think people will be like, you know what, I actually like this franchise. I like this game. It's a good product. I'm just going to play legit instead of risking losing all my progress. So I think you can kind of deter that a little bit. And Niantic has the reputation right now of dropping the ban hammer. And so I feel like a lot of people will test it. And if there's quick and swift action and it's firm action, I think that'll stop it pretty quickly. And like I've said before, you're never going to stop it completely because there will always be people looking for an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that said, we actually had talked a bit more about spoofings in our last episode. If you want to listen to that part, it was quite sad. Spoofing's always a touchy subject. A lot of people don't really want to touch on it too much, but you know, it's a thing. It's gonna happen, and hopefully they would find ways around it, I guess. Or I don't think that's really fitting of a phrasing for Niantic. It's more fitting for the spoofers, but oh well. So we're closing on 40 minutes, so I guess that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Dan and Fodder, for coming on, and we'll see you guys next time.